Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth release, and this one is absolutely epic because we have the Lab Lockdown Tyrannosaurus Rex. I have to give a huge shout out to Brennan the Paleo Dude for hooking me up with this one, helping me get it a little bit early rather than waiting until Walmart finally gets around to stocking it here in the United States. So again, a massive thank you goes out to him for his help in acquiring this one, but I was just so excited for this Rex because it looked to me to be the best Rex that Mattel had released so far, so I really wanted to get this one in my hands as soon as possible, and having it here before me, I can say, in my personal opinion, it is definitely, in fact, that it is the best T-Rex that Mattel has released so far. Now, of course, my opinion could change once I see some more of the other Tyrannosaurs that are coming out for Rebirth, but as of right now, as of seeing this one, it is, in my opinion, the best T-Rex. Like, it is absolutely gorgeous, and of course I haven't taken it out of the packaging yet, but I can't see my opinion changing too much once I do. The packaging is pretty much the standard as we've seen the entire way through, except we have the T-Rex down here now. So far, for the most part, it's usually the Spino, except for on the Quetzalcoatlus, there was the Quetzalcoatlus. Well, with the T-Rex, we have the T-Rex, so kind of neat that Mattel is kind of switching it up every once in a while as far as that goes. You can see some images up here of the T-Rex as well, and then when we turn it around, you've got a nice shot here on the back of the figure again, and also showing us that there is a button up there on the back for an action feature. So let's go ahead, pop this open, and we'll check it out. So here is our brand new T-Rex now out of the packaging, and honestly looking absolutely beautiful here. When it comes to the sculpt and fine detail, man, this is by far the best T-Rex that Mattel has released. Like, the detail on this is insane. The paintwork is actually also quite nice. Of course, you know, we could always include a little more, like more of the lighter tone moving along the underside, and then the striping effect leading out into the tail, but even still, I would say the paint apps on this are really well done overall. I also love the fact that the wrists are placed fairly correctly, which is not something we see very often when it comes to Mattel T-Rex figures, so that's also really exciting. Man, this thing is just honestly breathtaking here at first glance. So let's go ahead, bring it in. Actually, we'll readjust the camera just a little bit here so we can get a closer look. If we bring it in, we start up here in the head sculpt. You can see the head sculpt looks awesome. Look at all of the impressive scale detail throughout. Like, there's just so much variation. Here you have like really fine scales in the palate with a few like osteoderms showing up. You've got some little bit larger scales as you move back toward the eye, but then you can see that they are pretty much non-existent scales and more so just wrinkles and creases there around the eye. And then you have larger scales as you move back further toward the back of the head. And then you also have larger scales, something we see many times nowadays on Tyrannosaurs, with the larger scales moving along the jawline here and also moving up there kind of toward the nostrils. So it looks super impressive when it comes to the sculpt and fine detail. We also have more of that impressive sculpt down here on the lower jaw. You can see all sorts of variation to the sizes and style of the scales. We can see the nostrils sculpted out right there. That is, in my opinion, by far the best T-Rex sculpt that Mattel has released so far. If we take a look at the opposing side, something I did notice, look, you can see there's even an injury right here, and also another slice right there. So we have some scars on this T-Rex, which, you know, even though in my opinion this is definitely more of a female sculpt, I like that, and that's definitely something that could be fun to paint out, but also something we see a lot on the male Tyrannosaurs. You know, after the Lost World Jurassic Park, that's something that is, you know, pretty well known about the males, is that they usually have those injuries on their face due to confrontations and stuff like that, but we have that here again on this version. And another thing, first of all, look at how cool it looks from the front. That looks awesome, but it's also really quite thick, like kind of a chunky version of a T-Rex, which I also really like. So there's just so much to love about this Tyrannosaur. We do also have some nice variation of color, as you have a nice chocolate kind of brown for the primary body color, but then you have some darker tones that you could see kind of striping through the snout. You can see it up here on the top, basically stripes right over the top right there. The fine detail on the top of the head also looks really nice, really quite crisp. You can also take note to the fact that we have those new sharper teeth, which look incredible on this T-Rex, so much better than any of the previous Tyrannosaurus teeth. Of course, you can open the mouth. We do have an articulated jaw, which you can see both the upper and lower jaw articulate. That's actually part of the action feature, so rather than playing with it like that, I'll just push the button. So as you can see, you have a chomping action feature for the T-Rex. I will say that it kind of almost feels like it's concerningly cheap feeling right there as far as pushing that down. Like, I don't know, it just feels like it could potentially break in the future, but hopefully it doesn't. As of right now, it's definitely working fairly well, but we can see the teeth, again, painted with kind of like an off-white or maybe even bordering on like a light yellowish tone. They look really good. We've got the tongue on the inside of the mouth. Clearly the tongue kind of lifts up, similar to the old Extreme Chompin' T-Rex figures. We can also see the skin stretching here on the inside of the mouth, which is 2 parts, again, as you lead up, and you have some decent detail in that area. And again, you have also a nice pinkish tone in there that does run the entire way through, as well as a nice scent and shine, helping it to have that saliva-like look. As you move back into the neck, the skin detail continues to look absolutely incredible. Same deal as you move down here into the throat of the T-Rex. You do have that lighter tone of the lower jaw moving down. It does lead down basically into the chest of the Rex before disappearing completely. We also have a striping effect moving along the back. Really nice stripes, very Jurassic Park T-Rex-ish as far as that goes. And they are applied really smoothly, like they look very nice as far as the application goes. You can also see like wrinkling and creasing in the skin. We have some articulation in the neck that allows the head to go up and down. That's about as far down as it goes. It can also swivel, so you can get some nice head tilts if you want, and it also can go left and right. So as you can see from a front-facing view, you definitely get some nice posability in the neck of the T-Rex overall, which is a very, very nice addition to this figure. As we move back, we can see some osteoderms leading along the back. You can also see them following along the spinal column. You can really appreciate the nice striping effect, again moving down from the back there. As we lead into the side of the T-Rex, we have very impressive, very crisp skin texture and scale detail throughout the entire figure, leading down into the arms. The arms look nice and muscular. They're also, again, kind of held into the body, which I really love. We do also have arm articulation forward and back, and out away from the body. Moving down into the fingers, we can see the fingers themselves are nicely sculpted, and the nails are sculpted very nicely as well, but unfortunately no nail paint. However, they do have a gloss coat, so at least, you know, they kind of look like nails would, so that's a plus at least. As you move back, you can see some more osteoderms following along the back of the T-Rex. We also see the striping effect leading down, but it does disappear right at this point before we lead out into the remainder of the tail, which is unfortunate. As you lead down into the thigh, the musculature is very nicely shown off in both the thigh and calf region. You also can see the kneecap sculpted right there, and some very nice skin texture as well as creasing and everything throughout. As you lead down into the foot, you do have a swivel for the ankle, which is fairly common. You can also move the leg forward and back pretty nicely. As we lead to the feet, you can see some scoots moving down the toes, some nice looking skin texture, and the nails are actually painted on the feet, which is a huge plus. Are the dew claws? Nope. Should have known, they never are. But they're nicely done overall. As you lead back up, you can see some more skin wrinkles and creases and stuff right there. You can also, again, see that we have a little area here where the tail has to snap in, and that allows you to have some posability out there with the tail. It can swivel, of course. It can also go up and down, left and right, pretty much the standard motion and movement that you usually get when it comes to the articulated tail of a T-Rex. As you move along the underside, you can also see a very different style skin texture down here. Now, I don't know, again, this is based on the newer Rebirth design, I think, maybe, if it's the other T-Rex that's in the film, if there is, in fact, another T-Rex, because I don't think we've had confirmation, maybe I'm wrong, but if this is based on the Rebirth design, which I'm thinking it is, then we don't know for sure if it would have those usual scales. Like, there's a very trademark style of skin texture and scale detail to the underside of a Jurassic Park and Jurassic World T-Rex normally, but maybe these newer Tyrannosaurs don't have it. Regardless, if this is meant to replicate like the classic T-Rex design from Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, it is missing that little area that fine detail. But as you move out into the tail, you can see again a little bit of a curve as you lead out. Of course, the tail is a little bit short, but that's pretty common for Mattel. Does look like we have another spot right here. Yep, okay, so there's another spot of a swivel articulation right in that area. We can also see that the scutes and osteoderms and stuff move all the way out here to the end of the tail, which is definitely a little different from many of the other Tyrannosaurs we've had in Mattel. You can obviously see that the tail curves away from us when we look at it from this side, but overall, again, for the most part, outside of like some injuries and scars and stuff, it's going to look pretty much the same over here. The eye is painted with a yellow, given a nice black pupil. Man, that detail in the face is just jaw-dropping. As you move down through the course of the figure, you again see pretty much everything is the same except for the positioning of the leg. The leg is back a little bit further. But one thing I really do want to state is that I love the fact that the new feet aren't massive like they were on a lot of the older Tyrannosaurs. Like when you look at the figure from afar, those feet look so much better when it comes to their size than the older feet on the Tyrannosaurs did. So that is a huge, huge plus. So honestly, this T-Rex is a massive improvement in every single way from Mattel, and honestly, far and away their best T-Rex that they have had yet. As far as a size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, about 18 inches, pretty much on the dot, or around 46 centimeters, and then for a height to the back of the neck, now you could of course put the head up probably a little bit higher, but you're looking at about 7 inches, or just a hair under 18 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Lab Lockdown Tyrannosaurus Rex, and you can see it does have a pretty nice size to it. Not absolutely gigantic, but definitely quite large for, you know, any Tyrannosaur figure. But when it comes to like the Mattel Tyrannosaurs, I think it's somewhere in the extreme chomping size range, maybe a little bit bigger. So for some comparisons to help us establish that, here is the Hunt and Chomp Tyrannosaurus Rex, and honestly I was kind of heading into this comparison thinking that the Hunt and Chomp version was going to be a bit larger, but I'm not so sure anymore. The moment I put it up here onto the review station, I'm looking at the two and I'm like, wow, they are actually very similar in size. So maybe this one is a bit bulkier than the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex, and you can definitely see that again. They are overall fairly similar in size, with just a little bit more body mass on the new Lab Lockdown version, a little bit more length, I would say, on the older version here. But for another comparison, there is the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex, the battle damage version, next to the Lab Lockdown T-Rex. And you can definitely see that, again, they are fairly similar in size overall, but the Lab Lockdown version is definitely a bit bulkier and beefier, and just in general, look at how much of an improvement these two Tyrannosaurs have going on. Like, from the older Mattel T-Rex to the newer one, the detail is like night and day. Not to mention the size of the feet is so much better on the newer one. The teeth look a million times better. Even the paint apps, honestly, look better on the newer one. There's just so much more to love about this Lab Lockdown T-Rex than the older Mattel Tyrannosaurs. Let me go ahead and see if I can put the two next to each other. So yeah, if you put the two next to each other, you can definitely see that they are, in fact, very similar in size to each other, except for the fact that, again, the newer version is definitely a bit bulkier and beefier than the, you know, older Extreme Chompin' T-Rex. But overall, they are extremely similar in size, and very clearly massively improved on the newer version. And then for just a few random comparisons, we have one of the Wild Roar figures here next to the T-Rex, showing you the size difference between a standard Wild Roar and this Lab Lockdown Tyrannosaurus. Same deal with a Mattel Velociraptor, very clearly a massive difference in size. We've also got a standard Mattel Triceratops next to the T-Rex. Epic Attack Baryonyx, which you can see is kind of similar in size, just nowhere near as bulky as the Tyrannosaurus. And I really felt like this comparison would be a fun one, because this is the Spinosaurus for Jurassic World Rebirth from the Spinosaurus Danger set next to the Lab Lockdown T-Rex, and I was really curious what the size difference between these two would be. These two honestly look like they go together quite nicely. They definitely display well together. Then we also have the Maposaurus, again a gigantic trackers figure next to the T-Rex, showing you that the T-Rex again is quite a bit larger. A Mattel Parasaurolophus as well, which looks like it would make a nice meal for this T-Rex. And here is a comparison with the T-Rex next to the D-Rex now from this film, so we get to see two, Rebirth figures here next to each other, one of which being the T-Rex, so definitely fun to see these guys next to each other, though the D-Rex is clearly a lot larger. And then one final comparison as we have the last Indominus Rex that Mattel had released next to the T-Rex, and I figured maybe these two would be kind of cool looking next to each other, but clearly, even though this Indominus was smaller than the first version, it was still a pretty beefy figure, pretty sizable figure, because it is a bit larger than the T-Rex. There is the fax app code as well, because I did forget to show you guys that just in case you wanted it. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Lab Lockdown Tyrannosaurus Rex is absolutely incredible, and by far my new favorite Mattel Tyrannosaurus in my collection, and I can definitely see me buying many more of these once they start to hit shelves here in the United States, because it is just so darn good. I can't help but want to have numerous of these, maybe for some repaints, because the detail on this is so unbelievably impressive that a repaint would look so good on this. But that's not saying that the paintwork here looks bad. The paintwork on the figure already looks really good. I love the tones of color. I like the darker tones on this one. The striping effect moving along the back looks great. Sure, I wish it led out into the tail, and I feel like had it run out into the tail and then they had painted the claws on the hands and the dew claw, this would have been absolute perfection even without the coloration running the entire way on the underside. But, those minor things, even if you actually did run that color along the underside, this thing would have been a masterpiece if you ask me. Although it still isn't too far from that in my opinion, because again, the paint apps do look really good, really smooth, quite natural. The sculpt is absolutely incredible in every way. It also features some fun articulation and an action feature, but I like just having the ability to really quite articulate and pose the figure, which is always definitely fun, especially when it comes to display purposes. I actually wouldn't have minded if this just had a straight up articulated jaw, but it does still have that action feature, that chomping action feature. No noises or anything for this one, but I don't think it needs it, because it overall is such an impressive T-Rex that it definitely did not need any more added to it to make it any better, because it's already incredible. If you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this at least sometime soon on Walmart.com. Last time I checked, it was out of stock. Maybe it'll be in stock by the time I get this video out. Hopefully it is. If not, it will be sometime soon, I would imagine. So once it does go into stock, definitely pick it up and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.